Yeah, it's like has art to do. I got to get out of here now. Okay, bye. um, but yes, this is from Egypt. Oh man, cool. So right off the bat, I'm looking at a portfolio, 3D props artist, open for work. I recognize that you have built some scenes and have textured some stuff and made things. The thing that uh, instantly gets me to react is the way you're using your thumbnails. So you have to be extremely careful when you do thumbnails that have the logo of a game that you're building fan art for, right? So um, this one is pretty good. The framing of it feels a little odd, like maybe it could be positioned in a way where you can see more of the prop, or we zoom in real close. I'm a big fan of like zooming in real close to an asset, kind of like what you're doing here, and getting that to really like draw the person in to wanting to click on the piece, because that's at the end of the day that's kind of what's happening, right? Is we want you to look, we want you to click on the piece and check out our art, and if you like it, then maybe you'll hit the like button, or you'll follow us or contact us or whatever. So that's good. What's up, Rex? How you doing? When I look at this scene, like this one's good. The names of these are kind of vintage chess. So the underscores and dashes and game ready, I wouldn't even add that in there. Don't worry about it. Like the fact that it says Marmoset Toolbag tells me that you're shooting for real time. You're not shooting for like pre-rendered. You're thinking game asset. And then when I click on it and we look at the asset, it's like, okay, what do we see? We see UVs, we see poly counts, we see wireframe. That's great. We get a Marmoset viewer, which I would suggest using Sketchfab these days, just because it's just going to render your asset better. Marmoset Toolbag is definitely pushing their rendering for inside of their tool, and hasn't really pushed their web or browser viewer further since. So Sketchfab is scraped for AI nowadays. I mean, yes, I think you can flag it for not, right? But I think the moment the model is online, you're risking it either way. So if you want to render it visually in 3D, Sketchfab's still going to be your best option, unless you want to like just do video turntables of the asset. I like being able to scroll around though, and the way that Sketchfab is visualizing all of their maps, like this is okay to view it like this, but it also is gloss and reflectivity. Like I have a hard time uh, like reading that to give good feedback, just because I'm not comfortable with reflectivity and gloss maps. But this is great. Like doing all the breakdowns, showing us all of the details and where how you're modeling things and whatnot. Just like I was saying, remember the way you're naming your content. Think about like if you're asking for feedback. I wouldn't worry about asking for feedback, because if someone feels strongly enough about it, they're going to say it anyways. Um, think about your portfolio pieces as like the final, like you've posted it, it's now out there, it is done. Any feedback you get on it, you could go back and update if you wanted to, but that's just extra stuff that you don't necessarily need to, like, just keep moving forward and learn from, like, if they feedback on things, you just learn from those changes or those things that they feedbacked on and apply it as you move forward into your new pieces. Um, the things I wanted to mention is you've got the Gears of War 4 logo, you've got Bioshock 2 and God of War, and then I don't. This one actually looks unique, so we'll leave that one for now. But make it very clear, not only in the naming of it, but make it extremely clear in the thumbnail that it is fan art, because you can either get in trouble for this or you'll get flamed by other artists for presenting this way. Just make sure to put fan art. You can even art it in a way where it looks like it's part of the logo and design. Just make it extremely clear that it is fan art. Um, Again, the title. Just think about. Just call it a like abandoned garage or garage in location, like a specific location. A scene I started working on in my free time. Most props were inspired by Fallout, mainly made to feel more comfortable with Unreal Engine 5. Nice. So, okay, inspired by Fallout. So, um, I guess it could be like post-apocalyptic garage or like the Fallout garage or garage in the Fallout, right? Just thinking about naming with that in mind. When we look at these shots, you've got some really cool ideas happening here, and it's nice. Ah, that's lovely. That guy is not amused. Um, so let's look at this shot, and we'll look at this shot. So with this shot, we're just limiting the what we're gonna feedback on. So with this view, this kind of gives a garage door feel, right? But this doesn't feel like a garage door. Like there's all this infrastructure that goes into how garage doors work. So keep that in mind. Um, and that'll give you details that you can put on the ceiling to help break up the ceiling from being so flat. Also, watch out for laser lines where the ceiling meets the wall. Um, that can be solved by putting a pipe there or running a wire that connects to the system that helps pull the garage up. Um, and then, like looking at I think what I'm seeing is texel density issues. So you've got a resolution difference between this prop, the floor, and this prop. So what you can do is you just need to make sure that you're following texel density close enough that it's not noticeable. It doesn't need to be 100% spot on. If it can be, then hell yeah, do it. But um, let's say that the length of this is like 2 meters. Let's say this is 2 meters long, which sounds crazy, but let's say this is 2 meters long, and your textile density is 512 per meter, right? That would mean that the length of the texture for this piece of tarp or fabric would need to be 1024 long, right? So if it's 2 meters, 512 per meter, it'd be 512, 1024. And the floor would follow the same suit, right? That same length, there should be a 1024 pixel length in the texture for that. And if you think about it, all you're doing is tiling to get it to match that, or you're UVing in a way where your UVs are aligned to the same scale, prop to prop, and then you start to get a texture density that's similar between all of them. So what I'm seeing here looks pretty cool, and there's just a lot of like small things to be adjusting and like tweaking. Um, like for example, a lot of Fallout assets tend to be relatively clean, and then the dirtiness is usually in the roughness and not in the color. Um, the way that the light is really bright outside is pretty cool. It is really bright here, which feels a little strange. I don't know if there's like a leak there or what, but making sure that your lighting is not bleeding through your surfaces. I believe for lumen, if you're using lumen, I believe that surfaces need to be about 30 centimeters thick to guarantee that there's no light bleeding through. So if this is really thin, if this is like just a plane, for example, there's a high probability that lumen is actually bleeding through right on the edge here and is kind of like lighting up this wall here. And it's not actually the bounce light from this so much as like it's just bleeding past this. Like it's almost like this panel isn't here, if that makes sense. So those types of details are really important from a technical standpoint. And I think that you can find that information through just like, if you were to Google Lumen documentation, Epic and Unreal, they're doing a pretty good job of keeping their documentation, a really good job actually, of keeping their documentation pretty up to date, especially when they something changes or they find new information that helps them better understand how Lumen works for them, they document that and put that online for you to see as well. So keep that in mind. So there's resolution differences. There's possible light bleeding. Thinking about your surfaces not being too busy. I would love to see a screenshot of the albedo and the roughness and metallic map just to see what your metalness is. If it's metal, it's supposed to be white in the metallic map. If it's not metal, it's black. Hey, Amit, have a good one, man. Enjoy your recording. And think about like scale as well. Like this stool feels quite large. And think about if someone's sitting at the stool working at this workbench, is there room for their legs? That type of information, right? Yeah, Tama in chat, man. Tama's all about the Fallout game. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff and when you're working on it, just for readability. I like what you're doing with all the propping, and it's just these there's a lot of storytelling going on, which is great. And it's more about pushing and understanding where your materials are weakening and getting your textile density in line, the technical stuff of like light bleeding when you're using Lumen, metalness maps, roughness maps, laser lines, these types of things to help describe them a little bit better. Because like propping wise, this is quite interesting. I'm curious, this pile is if it came from the ceiling or not, right? That pile makes more sense over here, like you've done with the opening in the ceiling. So keep that in mind. With this opening in the ceiling, I like what's going on here. It is a little overly bright, and it's hard to explain this one ray of light when you can see it casting on so much of the scene. You probably need that ray of light to be really wide, and maybe just not as. You want to work with subtlety. Keep that ray of light subtle, but there. And then again, it's about readability, understanding the surfaces. You're propping in a way that's really nice. You're adding lots of little elements to kind of fill the space in a way that looks believable, and it's just about like watching out for this straight line here. Like you wouldn't see that in real life usually. This straight line again, you wouldn't really see that. This kind of collapse that's happened, like the plants growing inwards, all this ivy kind of coming in from outside, that should be around the edges maybe a little bit more. And I can see it climbing on this wall. The leaves look really dark on this side, so you want to maybe look at your transmissive properties for the foliage. Don't forget about detail normals. I'm wondering if there's like detail normals on this. And I mean, just generally looking at the contrast of your materials. Like this, the albedo for this looks really dark in areas. I'm wondering if it's actually too dark or if that's just the way that it's being affected by the lighting. Yeah, there's a lot of technical questions that come up. The other thing with this post is I would really like to see if you've modeled most or all of this stuff. I want to see like a screenshot of all of the props kind of laid out, right? And then handpicking two or three of them where you can break down like how you did the UVs, what the wireframes look like, what the texture maps look like, because that helps us understand your albedo, like how you perceive PBR maps and like just how you're putting things together. That gives us the ability to understand your current skill set and where you're at in your journey of being an artist in today's development of like game dev artist. We've got 6 minutes, so I'm gonna look at this one. Hey Keith, thank you very much. There was another one earlier as well. Thank you. Is it Kurubakla? Thank you. I have no idea if I said that right, but thank you very much. And hola, Keith. Good to see you. So this scene looks pretty cool. I feel like this is the prop layout shot that I was talking about. This is another angle. This one's more of like a storytelling. That's a finger. That person did not make it. I'm assuming that's the evidence of them. This one's interesting as well. Maybe the drapery here with the cloak is a little forced feeling, and it just doesn't rest naturally very well. But man, look at these. Like zooming in on this. So this is really cool to see. Scale wise, it feels a little strange in the wrap here. A great zoom in of a finger. My gosh, I want to say that you're crunching your image too much when it comes to like the noise. It's becoming very noisy while you're sharpening it. What's up, Polygon? How you doing? And I mean, generally the assets are being executed quite well, and it's just adjustments that need to happen. Like the normal on this needs to be toned down, maybe about half the strength, and then you're really focus on like what the roughness would look like for this, what the roughness of this looks like, because right now it looks kind of wet. So I think where you're weakest right now in your materials is actually just in the roughness map and then in normal map strength. Detail normals go a long way for like helping you portray certain surfaces at like a micro level, but normally you're gonna want your normal maps to be pretty smooth, and they help you at like creasing edges or like angles where the light starts to wrap around the asset itself. Like, see, these look really cool, but definitely there's a lot of like crunching of just overly sharpening the shot to get the look. I think maybe you're using a command that is like unsharpen like 2 or 3. I would do unsharpen 1, just a little bit, just a tad. Doesn't need to be too crazy. Some smaller things is like, see how these leaves are placed? Placing them in a little bit more of like an orderly fashion, or like a pile that's here and then a few that got like straggled away, instead of these all feel very evenly placed from each other. You got to watch out for these like invisible distances all being the same. Those like mess with the mind, and you're like, oh, okay, those are placed right, versus like if they were thrown, or a like a gust of wind came in and hit the pile and spilled a few of them to the side. When we look at the wireframes are way too high poly for, wow, this is in tool bag, or, whoa, okay, interesting. Yeah, I would cut the poly count way down, and you'll be better for it. Like this is hitting more in the territory. So is this one. But yeah, they're really dense without the benefit that you get. Ooh, this is great. Yeah, just be careful with your poly counts. Like right now, this asset here is like super high res. It doesn't nearly need to be this high in order to get that look. Same with the handle to this weapon here. But this is awesome to see. Your albedos actually look pretty good, relatively good. Maybe the saturation in the saturation might be okay. The blood maybe is too saturated, and the metals are likely too dark in the albedo. Right. So this looks like I'm assuming this is your roughness. I'm gonna assume this is your roughness. So getting more information. Yeah, dude, I love me some individual map breakdowns, because I mean the reality is like, okay, you build this whole scene, right? And I'm like, dude, that's cool. This is cool. Yeah, okay, that's a finger. Nice. If I can take one prop, like this chair, for example, you show me the wireframes, how you modeled it, right? You show me what your 68-month streak, dude. Thanks a lot, man. That roughness. You show me your roughness maps, how you're dealing with metallic maps. I look at all those. If those all look good to me, I can say confidently that I think you know what you're doing when it comes to texturing an asset and modeling one. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why it's so important. You could literally build just the chair, and if all the maps make sense and you're not going crazy in the poly count, and the asset looks good in just different types of lighting scenarios, like that's all I need to know, and then I can confirm that you know what you're doing when it comes to PBR. Man, that finger. every time I scroll past it. Um, but yeah, I don't have too much else to say on it. It is 10 o'clock. I think that I said enough. And oh man, this is cool. This is really cool. Remember to say fan art, and don't worry about the like. Come up with just name it like troll weapon, fan art. But this is cool. But if you have questions, you know where to find me. We made a chat for everyone who had a review this evening, and that's where your videos will be posted as well once they're edited separately. And yeah, from there you can ask me any questions if you had a question, and I will get you the answers that I can. Cool. Thank you for posting your portfolio.